The issue is that within Islam, we are supposed to do three things, and that is to fight injustice, oppression. We're supposed to change it, stand up for others. We're supposed to also be compassionate with others. Even if we don't understand it clearly, we're to take the road of compassion. And the third is that we're supposed to be merciful in everything that we do. For example, and this is Ramadan. We just started Ramadan today. And for those of us who may not be able to fast in the traditional way, we're to be compassionate. And that for each day that I'm not able to fast, I'm to feed one person for that day. Now, does that mean that if I miss 10 days and I can feed 10 people in one day at a banquet, or one person every day? That's part of the process and how you pay back. So this is the way in which it is, in which we need to move within our community towards a greater understanding that God is about love, not just among ourselves, but for everyone, because Islam came as a seal for those who believe in one creator, and that the way in which we live with each other is to respect each other for our differences as a blessing to us, not as a major difference. Now, in terms of the experience, in terms of the dealing with some of these things, is that part of it is getting others to interact. I go to events, and although and I hate to use this term, I'm ostracized. I'm that gay mom. You know, the thing is that I like them to give me the labels, and then I was at a conference and they asked for people to respond to the speaker in the center. And when you got through with all the 10 questions, who was the closest to the center but I? So it helped them see that no matter where they're at, that they have to change their perspective and their view of things and be open to a more inclusive aspect rather than an exclusive one that has grown to become the tradition rather than the history in which it came from.
Thank you.
Thank you. Two things that I think are barriers and I would like to change. And the first thing is fear. And I think it's the fear of the other, the fear of what is different, the fear of what is not as I am, or even the fear of the other in myself. And I think that is also about our own sexuality, and where it's so important to face these things in looking at who am I, each one of us, straight or gay, our own sexuality. But I think it's something about the chaos of sexuality that makes many of us fearful of sexuality. So it's all the time the fear of the unknown, of the journeys that we haven't taken, and the people that are not like us. And I think what is so important now in our communities is how transgendered people, break some of those stereotypes that we need to face, and so that we can overcome the fear of how people are different in many different ways, and also these separations that we do between people and how we think people should look like in order to be like me. The other thing I would like to change is patriarchy. I think we have come very far in many of our cultures. It differs a lot, but I'm often surprised how deep patriarchy is going into our culture, into our understanding of almost everything. And to unlock some of those things, I think is a huge thing to do. An example for me is different from this, but it's a very important for me to share it. In this cooperation with GALC in Kenya, we have kind of accompanied that community in Kenya to work on the dialogue between the LGBT community and the faith communities. But the way they wanted to start was to have a retreat for the community itself. So last year we had an extremely powerful weekend retreats, spiritual retreats in Nairobi, extremely hidden, but where it was people from the community, gays, lesbians, transgender people, who had the devotions, who had almost all of the program. And to see people in that situation being so oppressed because of their sexual and gender identity, to reclaim the spiritual place, to reclaim the religious identity, because what we identified as a huge problem is that we often ostracize, we put ourselves outside as not belonging any longer to the religious community. And how to reclaim, because how can I go into a dialogue with religious leaders if I myself think that I'm not part of that community? So how to reclaim, and an incredible outcome of that retreat was that some of them started to go to one particular congregation in Nairobi, simply to go together to the same church. One day the pastor there said quite bad things about the LGBTI community. What this group of people then did was to go to that pastor and say, we are here. And they went into a dialogue that changed that pastor completely. Completely. None of us could have thought about that as a strategy, but it was a very powerful example of a change that happened in the community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What do we need to do? I'm very sure our being here tonight is not in vain. Amen. We are networking, and we are looking forward to having a common solution. Because HIV and AIDS and LGBTQ, they are related. Issues surrounding HIV and AIDS community are the same issues surrounding HIV communities. So what do we need to do? System strengthening, because each one of us come from a system, from an organization, from a movement. We have already done work, so we need to strengthen. How? Strengthening networks. I'm sure by the end of this conference, we shall have a very strong network. Because in my community, like I said, as a Catholic, I was like thinking of where to start, advocating for rights of LGBTQ. Now I have a beginning. What do we need to do? Dialogue. Let's talk about it. And I call upon the LGBTQ community, come and talk about it. Talk about it with people you have confidence in, other than keeping quiet to yourself. Even ask people who are HIV positive, this is what we were going through. It was after gaining a lot of strength and talking to so many people, good people with good hearts, to give us this consolation, to give us this love. And now we are this strong to speak. Hiding and running away will not solve our problem. Let's sit together and dialogue. Dialogue with people who can ally with us. Dialogue with the people we feel are a threat to us. Change is a process. We can do something. What can we do again? When we strengthen systems, we put our minds together, we can resource mobilize. Because what is failing us, especially we people who are at that community level, we don't have the resources. We'd love to have education and information, give it to people in reachable areas they can, but we don't have the money, we don't have the resources. So when we network, we can always pull resources together, we can put wisdoms together, we put our strengths together, and then let us increase education. People don't know. I'm happy about my Catholic Church in Uganda. When I was reading about the church has said about LGBTQ, it's quite different from the first time when they were talking about it. And then they are pulling out, thinking about the clauses in the gay bill that are criminalizing, okay, people. So which means they still need education and information about this. Not just what people talk about it, but go to them. We have to go to them and talk to them. So we need to engage. We need to disclose, we need to do a lot of advocacy. A lot of advocacy from time to time. I'm happy to have been part of the spirit of 76 countries who have gathered here during this conference to see how can we strengthen the systems, join hands together and fight together to see that the rights of everyone are ensured.